Hey everybody, Jay Wade back here with another No Pause reaction. Thank y'all so much for joining me. If you are new here, please hit subscribe, ring that bell. Afterward, hit like if you like what you saw and heard. Appreciate the support very much. I know we can break 3K subscribers by the end of the year. I think we can do it by the end of the month. Probably the end of the week. I got faith, man. Let's do it. So we're going to get right into this. Breaking points with Krystal and Sagar. Bill Burr trashes capitalism in viral rant. Let's see what's going on. Other than what I've seen from Bill Burr in shows and podcasts, I don't know a whole lot about his political views, and what I have seen and heard, he hasn't really gotten in depth. So interesting to hear what his beef is with capitalism. Let's do this, everybody.
All right, Krystal, what are you taking a look at?
Well, friends, when we look at problems on this show, frequently they circle back to one dictate: follow the money. Can think about the 2008 financial crash, the Iraq War, the politicians that sell us out, the addiction crisis, the hollowed out industrial Midwest, the war-hungry military-industrial complex, the lying partisan media, the climate crisis, all the way down to, let's say, Kim Kardashian scamming her fans in a crypto scheme, or Tua Tagovailoa sent back into the field to risk his life after suffering a concussion, risking it all. Why? Because the coaches and NFL brass care more about the almighty dollar than about the human beings whose lives and health they've been entrusted with. Now, normally, when we talk about these issues, I'll talk about the corrupting influence of money. I'll inveigh against the dangers of putting profits over everything else, including health, family, peace, and human life. But there is a name for the system that puts profits above any other value, and the name of that system is capitalism. Now, you might call it unchecked or unfettered capitalism. You might argue that we're just doing capitalism the wrong way. Perhaps. But at the core of all these issues, which have been allowed to fester and grow into a destabilizing, possibly world-ending mess, is capitalism. And specifically, capitalism of the type ushered in by the Reagan, Clinton, Bush, Obama neoliberal era. Now I have just found out I have an unlikely ally in my assessment of the situation, comedian Bill Burr. Take a listen as he responds to a message that he received from a conservative fan who was upset that Burr had favorably mentioned socialism.
Last week you mentioned you don't know why people demonize socialism. I was really taken aback at that statement. Oh, Jesus Christ. Every country that has tried socialism has failed, and it's responsible for tens of millions of deaths. All right, so would you say capitalism is working? And it is not, you know, when, like, what is it, like 99% of the wealth is in, like, fucking 2% of the people's hands?
So then
all these tent cities, you're telling me this?
So then everyone else go out there and hustle and make a fucking buck, man. I mean, I'm not trying to be a dick. I mean, there is a lot of shady shit going on in capitalism. That's an absolute fact. But to even compare capitalism with socialism, I don't know. Sorry, this is No Pause Reactions, but I apologize.
Is working. You don't think capitalism is responsible for tens of millions of deaths? Anyway, Russia, Germany, China, Cuba, and most recently Venezuela have tried, or right now are socialist countries. As far as I know, whatever Cuba was trying to do, we prevented them from doing with a fucking embargo or whatever the hell we did. We've been fucking with them for 60 years. So I think you're looking at, like, you know, like what a lot of people do is you look at your own country through rose-colored glasses, the same way you look at your own sports team, like, oh, my team doesn't cheat, but your team does. You're really sort of looking the other way with what capitalism has done to other countries. All the sweatshop labor, all the wars we fought in over air quote freedom, where.
Okay, sorry, again, No Pause Reactions. I know I'm not going to be long here, but I mean, dude, there is no comparison to the damage done between capitalism and socialism. No comparison whatsoever. And to give, like, the extreme sweatshops and to give the extreme examples, and it's either ignorant or disingenuous at best. Sorry, I'm still a fan, Bill.
Most of it is about, you know, natural resources. All of these fucking countries where we've gone in and, you know, stuck in heads of the government that are going to do what we want to do so we can fucking take advantage of them.
And that is wrong.
To sit there and look at capitalism like it's, you know, I don't know, dude.
He goes on, by the way, mocking the listener for pointing out ills of communism that have all been replicated under capitalism, things like racist scapegoating, government surveillance, genocide, destruction of the middle class. But a really key point here that I think is worth reiterating is this idea from Burr that we look at our own country and our own systems through rose-colored glasses. We've been schooled our whole lives in the worst of what happened under authoritarian communists, primarily the Soviet Union, of course. And I am not here to stand for any authoritarians on the left or the right, nor am I interested in rewriting history with regards to the failures of full-scale government central planning. But what Burr is saying is absolutely true. We're trained to keep blinders on when it comes to seeing the ills of American society, which are in part, at least, caused by capitalism. There's in DC a new museum. It's called the Victims of Communism. And I wish I was kidding when I tell you that the park right across the street houses a sizable homeless encampment. Dozens of tents lined up, people suffering with mental health issues, addiction issues, all sorts of things who've been chewed up and spit out by our society. Many days, you can see these victims of capitalism literally sitting on the steps of the Victims of Communism Museum.
Okay, hold on, Krystal. Cool, whatever, but no, you're off here, man. It's because of piss poor laws and the way that our elected officials screw us over with the legislation they make. That's the issue. It's not capitalism. Capitalism is not causing homelessness, dude. It's the policies. I'm sorry. No pause. I know. I'm sorry.
I cannot think of a more perfect encapsulation of our cultural blindness to the rot caused by our own system, which we live with every single day. But since it's the water that we swim in, sometimes we just can't see it. Let's just do one super clear example here of what I mean, which is to dig into the opioid addiction crisis. Now, you probably know the outlines of the story. We've covered it a lot here. But basically, the Sackler family, owners of Purdue Pharma, start selling Oxy, pushing it as a non-addictive painkiller. That assessment, by the way, that it was non-addictive, that was based on basically nothing and given a rubber stamp by a government regulator who then went and turned around to work for Purdue Pharma. There's that almighty dollar again. Doctors, who get frequent visits and goodies and trips and dinners from pharma reps, they start prescribing Oxy for kids who get sports injuries, laborers who suffer from chronic pain, and its use becomes commonplace, especially in places that were devastated by job loss thanks to capitalism. The Sacklers knew almost immediately after that drug was introduced in 1996 that Oxy was addictive and was being routinely abused, including being crushed and snorted, that doctors were sometimes selling prescriptions, that the drug was being stolen routinely from pharmacies and then sold on the street. But they did worse than nothing. They buried the evidence. They doubled down on that popular drug that was making them billions of dollars, pushing it rather than backing off.
Okay. Dude, I'm not arguing with what she said there about the opioid epidemic and all that and like that company and all that. But again, like how you can't blame capitalism for homelessness. Like homelessness is due to capitalism. That's it. Like you can't know. One sector of capitalism, the health sector of capitalism, does not like make, dude, this ain't one of those where it's like guilty by association. 20 kids in the class, one of them F's up, so then everyone is an asshole now. That's not how it works, man. Krystal, you're cool. I love this show, but sorry, this is one where we're way off.
We all know what happened next. We ended up with the worst overdose crisis in our nation's history. Deaths from opioids skyrocketed.
I'm sorry. Personal accountability, responsibility, and personal accountability. Dude, I'm sorry. I grew up running with cats and used drugs. I've done my fair share, man. I've been around this shit, dude. And I've had many friends die from this kind of shit, okay? And it wasn't capitalism that got them addicted and got them hooked on drugs. It wasn't capitalism that caused them to continue their drug use until it got to a point that ended their lives. It's not. That's a personal thing. That's something that is going on within someone and their lives around them. It's not, you can't do that, man. You can't do it.
Rocketed as those who started with Oxy switched to heroin and then fentanyl, leaving behind a trail of misery, pain, and death. Now, you could say the Sacklers are evil. No argument for me there. But in another way, they're also totally unremarkable They are creatures birthed by capitalism, a system that is designed to put money before lives. After all, they were far from the only ones who got in on this multi-billion-dollar grift. Johnson & Johnson, McKinsey Consulting, Endo International, Teva, and on and on and on. All major companies that profited from their role in creating the opioid crisis.
Again, responsibility, personal accountability. This addiction wasn't caused by them. There were things that were already there. Those stepping stones were already in place, man. Come on now.
No drug cartel could possibly have done to this country what these blue chip American multinationals did. Some of these are public companies too. That means that they are actually duty bound by their responsibility to their shareholders to push dangerous pills on the population if it means getting a little bit better return on investment. Think of how utterly disgusting that is. And yet that's not a bug of our capitalist system. It's a feature. Capitalism.
Dude, that is one aspect, one field, one section of so many different sections of capitalism. Dude, we can't do that. We can't narrow things down and be so damn broad because of one freaking section, dude. It is disgusting. I don't disagree rather that there are problems that need to be solved. But again, that goes back to legislation. That stuff can be solved on the legislation level. Sorry. Sorry.
Created the jobless misery, the profitable pill to numb the pain, the cover-up to keep it going for decades, and the perfect excuse, personal responsibility, to keep those suffering treated as criminals rather than humans who are worthy of care. Now, I think conservatives would tend to look at this series of events they would focus on
the way she said that, personal responsibility. Oh, he's not responsible for shooting someone. He's not responsible for stealing. He's not responsible for this. Dude, come on, man. She mocked the idea of people being personally responsible.
On the individual failings, the greedy sacklers, the corrupt regulators, the drug traffickers who brought in the fentanyl, even those who allowed themselves to become addicted, as the right has tended to view addiction as a moral and criminal issue rather than as a public health issue. That's why, to the extent there's a right-wing critique of corporations now, it centers on the individual ideologies held by corporate executives rather than that overall system as a whole. The woke HR executive, for one example. The answer, they would argue, to this whole problem comes from locking up the bad guys, bolstering those institutions that would improve the morality and values of the population, primarily the church and the family, while attacking those institutions they believe are degrading public values like elite universities.
Okay. They are disgracing and discrediting whatever she's. Sorry, man, I'm all wound up here now. I ain't got nothing personal against you, Krystal. But it is terrible what's going on in the universities now. It's straight up propaganda, indoctrination, straight up, man. And that is just not right. Education should be basic education, and then university should be like in your field. There should be no indoctrination going on in the education system on any level whatsoever. It just, and what's wrong, even if you don't believe in God, even if you don't hold Christian morals and values, standard or typical Christian morals and values, the 10 Commandments, dude. What's wrong with that? Like, regardless of whether or not you believe in God, and regardless of where the 10 Commandments came through, read through the 10 Commandments, then comment below, and please tell me exactly what the issue is with each one. Break it down for me, please. Go through 1 through 10 if you think there's an issue with the 10 Commandments. Regardless of where they came from. Who cares where they came from? It's a great guideline. It's a great way to live your life. Sorry.
Now listen, guys, I literally live in the town where I grew up in. I'm close to my parents. I believe family and community are absolutely critical to human thriving. And by the way, I do think that capitalism is also destroying those institutions of meaning, but I'll save that piece for another day. But while individuals certainly have agency in their lives and should be accountable for their actions, as a people, we are utterly powerless before the overwhelming forces that our economic system has unleashed. How are you going to faith and family your way out of every job in your town being shipped overseas so that profit margins can go up a tick? How are you going to bootstrap your way out of a system of surveillance?
Yeah, and our last president, he brought a lot of those jobs back here that the Democrats love shipping overseas. You want to talk about sweatshops? I would love to see bust the sweatshops. Okay, you brought it up. You want to give the extreme, or maybe it was Bill Burr who brought it up. One of them. I'm sorry, I'm lost at this point. I'm in the now right now. Take the sweatshops, all the sweatshops in the history of the U.S. being associated with foreign companies. Take them all, and then tell me the people who owned them and ran them, were they Democrats or Republicans? I want to know. I mean, I'm not saying they were all Democrats or that even, the vast majority were Democrats, but I'd be willing to bet my life that the majority of them were Democrats. I mean, dude, I don't know, but that's how it's got it. I don't know, dude. Come on.
Capitalism that is constantly devising new ways to colonize your mind and keep you glued to your screens. How are you going to personal responsibility your way out of endless wars to feed a profit-hungry military-industrial complex that is literally content to risk nuclear war if it means a better earnings call? Problem isn't wokeness or college kids or trans teens or public school teachers. It's capitalism that wants to turn you into that generic, unthinking, profitable, sheep-like consumer. Now, liberals, of course, they've got their own version of the personal responsibility narrative, by the way. The problem is the deplorables or the Karens or the toxic masculinity. If there were more women and people of color running these corporations, then the government wouldn't be so horrible, the corporations wouldn't be so horrible, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This all, of course, is a distraction from the real issues. We can do better than accepting the deaths of despair and the skyrocketing costs and the destroyed middle class and the endless wars and the murderous healthcare system that we have now. There are a lot of options on the path between the corporate-run state we live in now and some Stalin-style authoritarian central planning nightmare. In fact, persuading Americans that our only options are Stalin or the Kochs is a pretty key way that the radical and deadly status quo is preserved for all those who profit from it. Bill Burr has it absolutely right. Time to take the blinders off on the victims of capitalism who are all around us. And Sagar, went a little deep there. That sparked a lot of thoughts for me. But I was curious what your reaction was to his comments there.
Please
Cable
be
news
sensible.
is ripping us apart, dividing the country.
See what they did there. See, that's how they hook you and reel you in to go watch the show, man. Dude, because I haven't watched this episode yet. I just saw that clip and was like, yeah, we got to check this out. Okay, hey, man. I love having conversations with people who don't agree with me. I mean, how boring would the world be if everyone had the same thoughts, feelings, and opinions? It'd be absolutely terrible. I am way off from Krystal today on this one. Yeah, this is one where we're way far apart on this. You can't be like that. You can't now. Okay, seriously here. What I hear here in this situation is that Krystal and I agree on the fact that there are problems, and we agree on the base, the core of what those problems are. We just have two different ideas of what is causing the problems and how to fix the problems. And there is nothing wrong with that. That is perfectly fine. It's awesome. That's how we get things done, is by having those opposing views and those opposing thoughts. Krystal and Sagar on Breaking Points. Check it out, everybody. You got the conservative and the liberal sides going there. And it's not, they don't get mean with each other or anything like that. It's not like heavy pushed in one direction or the other. It's some good stuff, man. Help them grow. Help me grow as well, please. Let's get to 3K. Then we're on to 5K subs. So hit subscribe, ring that bell, hit the like button, share, all that good stuff. Until next time, everybody, thank y'all so very much and have a great week.